In the 14th century, one man was so wealthy that when he traveled across continents, he accidentally destroyed the economy of an entire nation. He wasn't a European king, he wasn't an oil tycoon, and he didn't live in modern times. His name was Mansa Musa, and he may have been the richest human being who ever lived. In the 1300s, while much of Europe struggled through economic instability and political conflict, West Africa was home to one of the most powerful and wealthy civilizations on Earth. Stretching across modern-day Mali, Senegal, Mauritania, and parts of Niger, the Mali Empire controlled some of the most valuable trade routes in the world. And at the center of it all, gold. At the time, West Africa was responsible for nearly half of the world's gold supply. And whoever controlled the gold, controlled the power. When Mansa Musa became emperor in 1312, he inherited not just a throne, but unimaginable wealth. Mansa Musa, also known as Musa I of Mali, was not just a ruler. He was a visionary, a devout Muslim, a builder, a patron of knowledge. Under his leadership, the Mali Empire expanded, trade flourished, and cities like Timbuktu became centers of scholarship and culture. But it was one journey that would change how the world saw Africa forever. In 1324, Mansa Musa set out on a pilgrimage to Mecca. But this was no ordinary journey. He traveled with an entourage so massive, it stunned every city he passed through. Historical records describe 60,000 men, 12,000 personal attendants, hundreds of servants dressed in silk, and 80 camels, each carrying hundreds of pounds of pure gold. Imagine the sight, a golden caravan stretching across the Sahara Desert, banners waving in the wind, drums echoing across the sand, gold glittering under the desert sun. This was not just a pilgrimage, it was a statement. When Mansa Musa arrived in Cairo, the city had never seen anything like it. He built mosques, he funded charities, he gave gold freely to the poor, he showered officials and merchants with gifts. His generosity became legendary, but there was one problem. He gave away too much. Gold was rare, gold was valuable, gold determined economic stability, and suddenly, Cairo had too much of it. The massive influx of gold caused inflation. The value of gold dropped. Prices skyrocketed. The economy of Egypt suffered for years. Historians estimate it took over a decade for the market to fully recover. One man, one journey, one economy shaken. This wasn't myth, it was recorded history. Mansa Musa had so much wealth that he disrupted the financial balance of an entire region. But Mansa Musa's true legacy wasn't just gold, it was knowledge. On his return to Mali, he invested heavily in education and architecture. He transformed Timbuktu into a global center of learning. The University of Sankore became one of the most respected institutions in the world. Scholars traveled from across Africa and the Middle East to study there. At a time when many parts of Europe were still developing their academic institutions, Timbuktu was thriving. Libraries held thousands of manuscripts, astronomy, mathematics, law, literature. Africa was not a dark continent, it was illuminated. Today, when history books list the richest people who ever lived, you'll often hear modern billionaires mentioned, but rarely Mansa Musa, a king whose wealth reshaped economies, a ruler who elevated knowledge, a leader who placed Africa on the global map. History didn't forget Mansa Musa, it simply stopped telling his story. But here, on Hidden Africa, we remember.